Hey guys, Pedro here to tell you about the latest from Cabin Boy Jump Ship's Sentiments, out May 27th on AFM Records. The album has 11 tracks, 43 minutes in length, and this is the band's second full-length studio album. They are an electronic core band from England. This record has one of the greatest intros ever. Not because it's complicated, not because it adds to the fluidity of the record, but because it sets the tone for the experience, for the mood, for the atmosphere, and for the lyrical content. I honestly don't think you're going to get the same out of this album without it. It's impossible to open the doors that you feel like are open to you once you get through that intro and experience this album to its fullest without understanding exactly what you're getting yourself into. Absolutely amazing way of starting the record, absolutely amazing way of creating a song that has an everlasting impact on the overall experience of an entire record. Now, once you make it past that song, you're going to find that this is an album that feels very bipolar in nature. It has peaks, it has valleys, there's nothing in between. It's either pure aggression, intensity, even anger, or just pure melancholy, depression, and darkness. These two coexist with one another because you really can't have one without the other. It's the yin and the yang. They feed off of each other, and that dynamic is really well represented throughout the entire record. Not just from song to song, but within songs themselves. You see that movement, you see those peaks, you see those valleys, and you see how quickly you can go from one to the other without really having to navigate that far off. There is no room for growth, there's just room for two different experiences that at points have the same starting lane and at points have the same finish one. Really interesting aspect, really interesting album, from the intro to the construction to the way it develops itself all the way to the last track. As far as the soundscape goes, I was expecting this album to be more electronically driven, and it's not. At least that was not my experience listening to it. I was expecting the album to be completely controlled by the electronic elements, by the synths, and by what they bring, not just from a soundscape perspective, but also from an atmosphere, trying to create images, trying to create shapes, trying to really put you into a specific box so you can better digest what the songs are all about. They're still there and they still play a very predominant role throughout the entire record, but they're part of the essence of the soundscape. They're not the soundscape, and I think this is where they gain a new fan with me. If the album was completely electronically driven, it would dilute the experience, would stretch out the record, and the album wouldn't have the same texture, the same substance, the same foundation. You need those electronic elements to create great melodies, to help create those melancholic moments that the album has, to help you feel the darkness of depression, to help you feel the loss that you have when you are within that state of mind. But it also helps create bigger sound, bigger volume, and it helps define a little bit more with clarity when the aggression needs to come out, and everything that you've been bottling up finally makes it to the surface. So I like how it interacts with the drums and guitars and not necessarily defines the complete path that this album needs to take. I actually felt like the album had a lot more metal in it. The drums, the guitars, the heaviness that they have, the power, the strength, how they ground the album, how they expand the tracks, how they contract the tracks. All of that is really coming from those two elements. The electronic side of the record holds it all together. It gives you a sense of completion. It gives you a blanket that hides all of these songs underneath it. So that's what glues it all together. That's what allows this album to have very good flow from start to finish, but it's not a defining factor. At least it didn't jump into the forefront as a defining factor. It allows room for the drums and guitars to have a very predominant role in the experience, in the sound, in the quality, in the heaviness, in the melody, and then the electronic side is just there to complement that experience, that mood, that atmosphere. Now, the vocals are phenomenal. I love the clean vocals. I have to start there because the clean vocals represent so well the mood and the incredible lyrical content that this album has. Not to say that the harsh screaming vocals don't, but you really feel connected with the clean vocals. You're able to see through the eyes of the creator. It gives you a more direct line to who's making this music and how important these songs, these lyrics, these experiences are to them. So I feel like those clean vocals are able to kind of let the veil down and see a little bit more beyond the music and see a little bit more beyond the artist. And I think that's an important element on any record, but specifically a record that has the lyrical content that this album has. This is a very personal album from beginning to end, and it's impossible as a listener to not feel connected with that experience, because we've all had similar experiences, if not ourselves, people that we love, people around us have dealt with depression, have dealt with loss, have dealt with pain, have dealt with suffering. So this album really paints a vivid picture of all the different stages that you could go through when it comes to losing someone, when it comes to feeling pain, when it comes to feeling disconnected from the world. And those clean vocals allow you to better understand that message and to better understand those experiences. Then when you get into the harsh screaming vocals, it's more of the anger, it's more of the direct component of yourself coming into the forefront. You're no longer really overthinking how you're feeling. You're more exteriorizing that animal instinct that's within you. And this record really represents that as well, as far as the vocal range is concerned. Overall, this is an album that allowed me to discover a new band. I had never heard of the band before. I came into this album with certain expectations, and I was completely surprised by how much they went beyond those expectations. This is a great sounding album, first and foremost, and I think you have to have that as the starting point if you're going to have an incredible record. So sound-wise, I connected with the album because I like the electronic side, but I like the fact that they didn't let that control the album. The music, the drums, the guitars, the bass still has its place and still has a predominant role on how this whole record was put together. And then the lyrical content, the experience, and the vocals are the final pieces to this puzzle that make this a perfect album for the times that we're currently living in. Listen to this record, digest this record, call someone, stay in touch, be there for those that need you the most at their most moments of weakness. This record really brings that into the forefront and makes you perhaps realize that in a very vivid way. As far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with War. I love the melancholic experience that this track offers at the start. You see it in the sound, you see it in the vocals. It feels beautiful, it feels somber, it has a great dark atmosphere to it, and that is how everything gets started. Then you start to see the more aggressive side coming in, and that somber melancholic moment really helps set up the aggression that follows. You can't have one without the other. It is one that's feeding the other. One monster, it's feeding the other. I love this sensation that this track gives me, because you're going from feeling completely naked and almost vulnerable to feeling empowered and feeling like you have the strength to do something. This track has that ability to convey that message in a musical format, but also with the lyrics and the vocals and how everything comes together. It's a track that becomes bigger, heavier, thicker, more powerful, but still the underlining mood, the underlining darkness that you saw at the beginning during the more melancholic experience stays true throughout the entire track. It doesn't matter how much heaviness you add to this song. The emotion that drove the beginning of the track is still going to be there, regardless if you're angry about it or you're feeling depressed because of it. Great track. Next you have Deluded, a very electronic sounding track, perhaps one of those that from the get-go you could feel the electronic side of the band coming alive on this song. It has an impact to the music, and it definitely has an impact to the atmosphere. It's almost a pop track, or at least it's within that realm as you get going within this song. Then obviously there is some heaviness within the track that helps counterbalance that pop nature that the track has. The harsh vocals help divide themselves with the clean vocals. This is a song that where the sound and experience goes, so does the vocals. There's peaks, there's valleys. You're going to get a different approach musically and vocally depending on where you are within those peaks and within those valleys. You're either filled with anger and aggression, or you're in a deep depression. There's nothing in between. This song is an exact microcosms of the entire record, and it's really easy to define this track, and it's really easy to digest the track, because you can understand exactly what the singer, what the character, if you will, is going through from a musical perspective, but also from a lyrical perspective. Great track, really creating the two momentums that are needed in order to still be very volatile, very fluid, very powerful, but never disconnected from one another. Last but not least, you have Cure. I love the piano. I honestly love the piano on this track. This is as close as you're gonna get to a ballad on this album. It feels like a ballad, not necessarily sounds like a ballad, but it feels like a ballad. The piano and vocals, that stripped down atmosphere as the song starts off, lets you know where you're gonna go with this. This is gonna be a very introspective, dark track from the get-go. There's no walking away from it whatsoever. The lyrics are personal. This is a very personal track. The whole album is very personal, but this one, because of the content, because of the music behind it, that stripped down effect really takes all the boundaries around it. So you're able to see the song better, you're able to digest the song better, and that darkness that this track has becomes even more noticeable at every single turn. So this becomes a page of a diary. That's how it comes across. That's how it feels. It starts to grow a little bit, it starts to morph a little bit, but it never really gains momentum until you get into the second chorus. Once you get into the second chorus, that's when the song becomes heavier, becomes bigger, more powerful, and then right after that it has a phenomenal solo that adds so much melody, but at the same time so much darkness to how this song comes together. It's the perfect element to put the exclamation mark on an absolute incredible track. One of the darkest, if not the darkest, most somber song on the entire record. And I have no doubt that the reason for that is that piano, those clean vocals working together, making you feel direct connection with the song because there's nothing there to filter the experience. This is it. Cabin Boy Jump Ship, Sentiments, out May 27th on AFM Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.